Hey guys, today I'll show you a horror thriller movie collection named Torihata Goosebumps. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The first story begins with a woman in a laundromat smoking out of boredom. Just then, the security camera footage on a TV screen catches her attention. The footage shows two men fighting, but as time passes, the fight escalates into a murder. One of the men is beaten to death. After witnessing the whole thing, the woman rushes to call the police. To her horror, the person who answers is not a police operator, but the murderer from the security footage. He coldly asks if she saw everything and then ends the story. The second story begins late at night when a woman is riding the last bus. Besides her and the driver, there's no one else on board. Soon, a woman in a trench coat gets on. The woman in the trench coat is a bit strange. Despite there being so many empty seats, she insists on sitting right next to the first woman. Out of curiosity, the woman steals a glance at the newcomer. The woman in the trench coat appears disheveled. Her clothes are tattered and filthy, but her face holds an eerily calm, expressionless look that is hard to read. A short while later, a man boards the bus. He finds the woman in the trench coat familiar and looks at her. The sight terrifies him, and he flees the bus in sheer terror. The driver, curious, also glances at her, only to be so frightened that he abandons the bus and runs away. The woman tries to run too, but is stopped by the woman in the trench coat. It turns out the woman in the trench coat had been raped and murdered by that man and the driver, which is why they knew she was a ghost. Actually, she sat next to the woman to protect her. The third story begins with an office worker who is waiting for a train when he sees a woman in a red dress picking up a coin she dropped. He thinks she looks clumsy and unattractive and makes a snide remark about her. He doesn't realize that she overheard him. Afterward, the woman in red begins appearing wherever he goes. He runs into her at the bookstore, sees her while eating his lunchbox downstairs, and even spots her on the bus. Realizing something is wrong, the man immediately gets off. To take shelter from the rain, he enters a restaurant, only to find the woman in red there as well. He finds this strange, as he thought she had stayed on the bus heading to the next stop. While waiting for another train, the man finds a coin on the ground, which reminds him of the woman in red. He turns around, and sure enough, she's there. The woman in red shoves him off the platform, ending his shitty life. The fourth story begins late at night when a sexy girl is awakened by shouts from the next apartment. Curious, she presses her ear against the wall to eavesdrop. It sounds like the female resident next door is being beaten. After a while, the shouting suddenly stops. To find out if the woman is dead or alive, the girl goes to her bathroom to listen through the wall like a peeping Tom and hears the sound of tape being torn. She suspects a murderer is next door, disposing of a body. While listening, she accidentally knocks over a bottle of hand soap on the bathtub. The noise next door stops instantly. A moment later, there's a knock on the girl's front door. Only then does the girl think to call the police, but the killer has already picked the lock to her apartment. The girl's chicken screams awaken her neighbor on the other side. It's revealed that the killer is going from apartment to apartment in sequence, murdering the residents. The fifth story begins with a woman who has been receiving strange, garbled text messages. Although annoyed, there's nothing she can do. Returning home from work one evening, the woman glances at a perfume bottle on her table. She is surprised to find that the bottle is not in the same position as when she left that morning. Although it has only been moved slightly, she notices the detail. It seems someone has been in her apartment while she was out. She tells her friend, but her friend says she's just being paranoid. The next day before leaving, the woman deliberately marks the perfume bottle's position to confirm if someone is really moving her things. She then receives another garbled text. This time she replies, telling the sender to stop sending such pointless messages. That evening, after she gets home, the sender replies with a defiant attitude and even sends several photos that were secretly taken of her sexy body. One of them was taken just as the woman had returned home. She quickly checks her front door. Thankfully, it's locked. Then the sender texts again saying they are coming in. The woman immediately tells her friend, who urges her to call the police. As the woman is dialing, another message arrives. This time, the sender sends a photo of her, taken just at that moment. It turns out the sender has been hiding in the ceiling of her apartment. The sixth story begins late at night when a drunk man goes to a public restroom to relieve himself. The words, "Help me," written on the wall catch his attention. The drunk man uses a pen to write "OK" underneath it. He doesn't notice that his wallet has fallen on the floor. The next day, he returns to find his wallet. After finding it, he notices more words have been added to the wall. The person is asking when he will come. The drunk man writes, "Anytime is fine." He guesses the person might be a girl offering paid dates. That night, the drunk man returns to the restroom. Sure enough, the person has left a phone number and a note complimenting his glasses. The drunk man dials the number. To his surprise, the phone's ringtone comes from inside a locked, out-of-order stall. The seventh story begins with a friend telling a stupid woman about a ritual. At 3:33 a.m., if you use your phone to take a picture of the no-signal static on a TV screen, a number will appear. This number represents the remaining lifespan of the person who took the photo. The stupid woman decides to try it as her friend described. Sure enough, 60S appears on her phone. Her friend tells her that she has 60 years left to live. The woman does the math and feels okay with living until she's 77. But then, the number on her phone suddenly starts counting down. The woman quickly asks her friend about it, who then remembers that S can also stand for seconds. This means the woman has less than a minute left to live. At that moment, she hears the footsteps of a strange man coming up the stairs. Even after she locks her door, the number doesn't stop decreasing. The ending is thus implied. The eighth story begins with a middle-aged man awakening from unconsciousness to find his hands tied and his eyes covered with tape. The ropes on his hands aren't tied tightly, however. After untying himself and tearing off the tape, the man takes in his surroundings. Before him is a middle-aged woman in the exact same predicament as him. They both have a steel cable fastened tightly around their necks. The cable is so secure that even with all his strength, the man can't break it open. In this locked room, besides the two of them, there is also a young girl and an unconscious young man. They have all been placed on chairs by a mastermind, with steel cables attached to the ceiling. If they make any sudden large movements, the oil drums supporting their chairs will topple. Without that support, the person in the chair will be hanged. Soon after, the young girl named Miko also unties her hands and removes the tape. Fortunately, the man warns her just in time, preventing her from making any drastic moves. The mastermind watches the four of them through a surveillance camera. A little later, the young man, whose name is Takashi, also wakes up. Upon understanding their situation, he tries to shout for help a few times, but the mastermind has already anticipated this, so calling for help is useless. At this point, Takashi's composure shatters. Although the steel cables have combination locks, without knowing the code, there's no telling how long it would take to guess. After a period of silence, the man breaks the stalemate and starts a conversation. It turns out they were all ambushed and knocked unconscious, but not at the same time. They were brought here one by one. The woman asks Takashi why he wants to live. As he wonders about the question, she asks again, stating that humanity is divided into two types: those who deserve to live and those who don't. Takashi is angered by her strange line of questioning, but she doesn't explain why she asked. The woman then happens to put her hand in her pocket and finds a slip of paper. It has a few numbers written on it, so she reads them aloud. Everyone immediately realizes it's a combination and starts trying the locks on their cables. However, only Miko's lock opens. She tries to pull on the main door, but it won't open. Just as she's feeling helpless, she discovers a slip of paper on her own person as well. It turns out that each of them has a note, and on each note is the combination to someone else's lock. If they just tell each other the codes, they can resolve the crisis. But the woman tells them to stop and not to reveal the codes. She explains that 3 years ago, her daughter was raped and murdered by Takashi. Because he was a minor at the time, he was only sentenced to 3 years. After his release, he acted as if nothing had happened and continued to live his life freely. Meanwhile, the woman, devastated by the loss of her daughter, nearly committed suicide by jumping off a building, but was stopped by her husband. Upon hearing this, the man tries to reason with her, saying Takashi has already been punished by the law and they have no right to judge others. The most urgent matter is to solve their current predicament. The man's combination is on Miko's note, so he asks her to tell him his code first, and then he will save Takashi. The woman quickly urges Miko not to speak. Although Takashi holds the code to her lock, she is prepared to die with him. In her agitation, she nearly knocks over her oil drum, but Miko reacts quickly. After some thought, Miko refuses to give the combination. The man also disagrees with revealing his own code to save Takashi, feeling that the combination he holds is his trump card and shouldn't be played casually. Now, everyone's life is in Miko's hands. The woman once again pleads with her not to save Takashi, saying he never received the punishment he deserved. Hearing this, Takashi tells Miko that if she does this, she will become a murderer. But the woman retorts that the real murderer is the person who designed this trap. The three of them above begin to argue. At this moment, Miko suddenly reveals her identity. She was once a classmate of the woman's daughter, and the two were best friends who shared everything. She expresses her own deep sorrow over the daughter's death. Hearing this, the woman begs Miko to rid the world of this menace and let Takashi receive his rightful punishment. After saying this, she kicks away her chair. Although Miko runs to support her, it's no use. In the end, the woman dies. After her death, a mechanism on the door turns slightly. Miko notices a simple sketch near the mechanism. Seeing the sketch, she seems to realize something and starts smashing the camera with her lock. After destroying it, she begins to pass judgment on Takashi's crimes. To ensure fairness and justice, she even holds a vote. The man implicitly agrees to her actions, because once Takashi is dead, Miko will have no reason not to save him. So for now, it's best to go along with her. Realizing he's about to die, Takashi starts cursing the woman's daughter, claiming that she used the fact that she was raped to blackmail him, which is why he had to kill her. Naturally, Miko doesn't care about any of this and ends his life with a kick. Now, only Miko and the man are left alive. With the matter settled, Miko reveals the man's combination. After entering the code, he finds that the lock won't open. Miko asks him if he thinks he can survive now that he's seen her kill people. The man realizes he's been tricked. Miko had learned the man's name by chance, which reminded her of something from 4 years ago. Back then, she met the man online. They had a great time chatting, and she suggested they meet. But the man said he was busy and couldn't make it, though he could send a handsome friend instead, even providing the friend's email address. It turns out that handsome friend was Takashi, who just died. Miko never met Takashi. Instead, she sent his email to the woman's daughter. It turns out the daughter was involved in compensated dating and often looked for clients online. That time, unexpectedly, it led to her death. The man finally understands that Miko is the root of all evil. In the end, the man also dies at her feet. The combined weight of the three bodies triggers the mechanism, finally unlocking the main door of the room. Miko joyfully opens the door only to be stunned. Outside the door is just another locked room. The door here is completely sealed. This means the person who designed the trap never intended for anyone to get out alive, and the person who designed the trap was the middle-aged woman. She had long ago investigated the identities of all three people and figured out the entire sequence of events. They were all connected to her daughter's death, so they all had to die. That's why she designed this trap, solely to make these enemies kill each other. In truth, the moment her daughter died, her own heart died with her. Since the law couldn't bring her vengeance, she chose to use her own life in exchange for the power to act as judge. The 9th story begins with a boy's first day in his new home. Exhausted from a full day of moving, he falls fast asleep like a pig as soon as he gets into bed. Before long, he is awakened by loud laughter from next door. The laughter from the man and woman next door goes on, so the boy has to give them a warning. Late at night, some hormone screams come from the next apartment. This time, the boy isn't annoyed by the hormone noise. He immediately presses his ear to the wall to eavesdrop. The man next door says to the woman that they should play something more exciting. Just as the boy is wondering what he means, the man suddenly drills through the wall with a power drill, nearly killing him. After pulling the drill back, the man says with regret to his partner that the drill bit didn't turn red, but next time it would surely be a success. Only then does the boy notice the wall is covered in many drill holes. The 10th story begins with a young woman who is a heavy metal enthusiast and often listens to her music at full volume, disregarding those around her. Because of this, she bothers others even when wearing headphones. While waiting for the train, she continues to listen to her music and takes out her phone to text a friend. At that moment, a murder happens nearby. The other passengers see it and start to flee in all directions. Only the young woman remains lost in her own world. When she notices that everyone around her is gone, she realizes something is wrong. She wonders why the station is empty. She turns around and sees a blood-soaked killer. In the end, the young woman is killed by the murderer. The 11th story begins with several home invasion murders recently. The police believe the cases are all the work of the same person, who exclusively targets women living alone. The suspect is described as being short and wearing glasses and a baseball cap during the crimes. One evening, a man claiming to be there to inspect the alarm system knocks on Keiko's door. After a moment's thought, Keiko lets him in. As soon as the man enters, he puts on a baseball cap and even starts talking about the recent murders, asking Keiko if she lives alone. While the man is conducting his inspection, Keiko takes out a stun gun for self-defense. The man then says he needs to check the alarm in the bathroom, but not long after, the man's screams are heard from the bathroom. Keiko cautiously goes to the bathroom and realizes she's been deceived. Just as the man lunges at her, Keiko electrocutes him, knocking him unconscious. At that moment, the TV news report is heard again. It's revealed that the home invasion murderer is a woman, and that murderer is Keiko. The man was a copycat killer imitating Keiko's methods. What he didn't know was that the target he chose this time was the very person he was imitating. The 12th story begins with a girl often hearing strange noises around her, causing her to live in constant fear, always suspecting that someone is following her. Just as the girl falls asleep without a muscular man, a strange noise comes from her closet. But when she opens it, she sees nothing. The strange noise constantly follows her, preventing her from sleeping peacefully. It turns out there was an insect growing in the girl's ear. The strange noises she heard were the sounds of the bug squirming. The 13th story begins with a man impatiently calling for an escort as soon as a man checks into a hotel. He requests escort number 1. But when he opens the door, he finds that the woman looks very different from her photo, so he asks for a replacement. Number 1 says she will call number 2 over. After a few minutes, there's another knock at the door. The man opens it, only to find number 1 again. But this time, she claims to be number 2. The man immediately calls to complain. The person on the phone apologizes and says they will send number 3 right over. When he opens the door, it's number 1 again. This time, she says her name is number 3. The man has a breakdown and asks if they only have 1 escort in total. Hearing this, the person on the phone quickly calls number 3 to ask for her location, but number 3's ringtone is heard coming from behind the man. It turns out that number 1 had already killed number 2 and number 3, possibly because of the over-competitive escort industry, and the man is also killed by number 1. The 14th story begins with a salary boy encountering a strange man who keeps following him one day at work. When the boy notices, he deliberately stops walking. The strange man immediately flashes an odd smile. The boy thinks the man is provoking him, so he engages him in a speedwalking contest. The boy wins by running like a speeding Tesla bike, but his happiness is short-lived as the strange man reappears, still with that odd smile. And so the speedwalking contest begins again. Both are highly competitive, so they switch from walking to running. As the strange man runs into the road, he fails to watch for traffic and is hit and killed by an oncoming car. The 15th story begins with a girl spying on her neighbor in the apartment across from hers every night. She notices that he is also spying on her. Suspecting he's a pervert, she calls the police to report that she is being persistently watched. However, when the police arrive at the boy's apartment, they discover that he had hanged himself long ago. All this time, the girl had been spying on a dead body. The 16th story begins with a man having figured out the daily routine of his beautiful next-door neighbor and spies on her punctually every day. He even goes to his bathroom to eavesdrop when she is showering. The neighbor tolerates it time and again, not even bothering to expose him when they run into each other. But the man has no idea that his disgusting behavior has long been discovered. One night, overcome with lust, the man takes advantage of the fact that his neighbor isn't home from work yet and slips into her apartment from the balcony. He then proceeds to make himself at home. Just then, the neighbor returns. The man quickly hides under the bed. As soon as she gets home, the neighbor starts ranting furiously about the man, saying how uncomfortable it makes her feel to have her private space monitored. The more she talks, the angrier she gets, even deciding to kill the man's peeping life. She rings his doorbell for a long time, but no one answers. The neighbor is puzzled. The man is a homebody, so why is he not home now of all times when she wants to kill him? After venting, she lies down on her bed and starts cursing. Just then, the man's phone suddenly starts to vibrate, sounding like the girl's vibrator. The vibration is very loud, so in the end, the neighbor discovers him. Needless to say, the man becomes a victim of her wrath. The 17th story begins with a middle-aged man staring intently at a girl on the subway, making her feel extremely uncomfortable. There are so many empty seats, yet he insists on standing right in front of her. The girl has no choice but to change seats, but the man continues to stare at her. The staring creeps her out, so she decides to get off at the next stop. But the man suddenly runs over and grabs her, trying to prevent her from leaving. In the end, the girl manages to break free. However, the man seemed to be trying to warn her about something. Just as the girl is feeling relieved to have escaped danger, a real psychopathic killer approaches her. The 18th story begins with a husband who is away on business for long periods and can't be with his family. To ease his homesickness, His wife frequently records small moments of their daily life with a video camera and mails the tapes to him. One day, the husband receives a new tape as usual. The video shows his wife secretly filming their 2 sleeping children. But the husband suddenly realizes something is wrong because his sleeping wife also appears in the frame. So who is recording the video? The footage then shows that his wife has been murdered. The bed is covered in blood. The husband immediately calls home, but no one answers. On the video, the killer says that they will make sure to deliver this tape to him. It turns out the person who delivered the tape that day was the killer. The 19th story begins with a man finding an envelope while buying a drink. The note inside says that if the reader is interested, they should walk 100 meters to the right. It seems to have been left by a girl. The man does as instructed and finds a second letter in a phone booth 100 meters away. It asks if he is handsome, and if so, to walk back 50 meters. The man is quite honest and naturally admits that he is. He then follows the clues to a third letter, which asks if he has any money. This makes him suspect the person is a girl involved in compensated dating. The fourth letter contains a photo. Following the instructions, the man stands on a heart symbol marked on the ground. Then he dials the phone number from the letter. To his surprise, no one answers. Suspecting he's been pranked, he leaves. But just a few steps away, a girl who has committed suicide by jumping from a building lands on the heart symbol. And this girl was the one who wrote the letters. The 20th story begins with a girl passing by a delivery rider when she picks up something he dropped and returns it to him. The rider instantly falls in love with the girl and flashes a strange smile after she leaves. That evening, when the girl returns home, she finds a bag hanging on her doorknob. Taking out the box inside, she discovers it contains 2 teeth. The next day, the rider greets the girl when he sees her. We can see that the rider has shaved his head. When the girl gets home, sure enough, she receives a package of the rider's hair. After encountering the rider again, the girl no longer dares to linger. It seems the rider waits for her to pass by every day. That night, someone rings the girl's doorbell. When she opens the door, she only sees a bowl of rice topped with food. Out of curiosity, the girl picks up the bowl, only to find an eyeball among the food. It turns out the rider has been sending her parts of his own body every day. The 21st story begins with a girl named May receiving a strange notification while on the phone. An automated voice tells her that today at 2:05 a.m. she will die. After hearing this, May tells her friend about it. Her friend thinks she is joking and suggests that in her final moments, she should do something she has always wanted to do, but never dared. Taking this to heart, May thinks of her crush and texts him, asking to meet the next day. She then returns to a shop to continue waiting for her clothes. May notices a man nearby picking up clothes that are stained with blood, and his expression is very strange. With the time approaching 2:05 a.m., she begins to wonder if this man is going to be her killer. However, another customer walks in at that moment. 2:05 a.m. passes, and nothing happens. The next day, her crush texts back, arranging to meet May at 2:30 p.m. at a certain restaurant. At that same restaurant, a young woman is waiting for someone she met online. Her online acquaintance texts that he is still on his way and tells her to wait patiently. He then asks what the young woman is wearing. She replies that she is in a school uniform and carrying a red bag. The online acquaintance, however, does not describe his own appearance, saying only that he will find her when he arrives. This makes the young woman feel it is unfair. To her shock, he suddenly tells her to shut up and calls her an ugly freak, which makes her very upset. Just as she is about to leave, he sends another message, a photo of a dead person, which he claims is a selfie. She realizes that her online date is a psychopathic killer. The young woman wants to run but sees that it is already their scheduled meeting time, so she hides in the restroom. Before long, the killer follows her into the restroom. She believes she is doomed, but a sudden commotion outside causes the killer to leave, and so the young woman is saved. It is revealed that the person the killer murdered was May. He had targeted her because she, too, was wearing a school uniform and carrying a red bag. May had arrived early for her date with her crush and was tragically killed by mistake, and the time of her death was exactly 2:05 p.m. The 22nd story begins with a boy going out to the balcony for a smoke after learning that his girlfriend's meal wouldn't be ready for a while. He happens to catch a glimpse of a mysterious woman. Although he finds her a bit strange, he can't quite put his finger on why. The next evening, while hanging laundry, the boy sees the woman again. He thinks it might just be a coincidence and doesn't give it much thought. On the morning of the third day, while collecting the dry clothes, he sees that the woman is still there. He wonders if she could have spent the entire night in the phone booth. That evening, his girlfriend looks through his graduation photos, asking him if he ever had a secret crush on a classmate, or if any classmate had a crush on him. After some thought, the boy decides to keep it a secret. When he goes out to the balcony, he sees the mysterious woman again. This time, she notices him too. The boy immediately pretends to be looking at the scenery. The woman then gives a mysterious smile. Seeing this, the boy immediately goes downstairs intending to ask her what's going on because he recognizes her. However, the mysterious woman has already disappeared. The boy notices that the top of the phone is covered with writing, including words like love and kill. Just as the boy is about to leave, he finds the phone booth door is locked. At that moment, the phone rings. The boy answers, and the person on the other end tells him to look up at his own balcony. When the boy looks, he sees the mysterious woman. She is holding a bloody knife. It turns out the call was from her, and she has already killed the boy's girlfriend. The mysterious woman was the boy's classmate and had been obsessively in love with him. The 23rd story begins with May being invited to her superior's house. The superior had previously commissioned May to work on a project proposal, so May is mainly there for her final approval. As they are reviewing it, the alarm in the superior's house suddenly goes off. The superior, however, acts as if she hasn't heard it and continues with her business, telling May not to worry about it. She even starts making small talk with May. It is revealed that the superior lives alone, caring for an elderly person who cannot look after themselves. Over time, her sense of filial piety has worn thin. The alarm is the elderly person in the back room calling for help. May asks her superior to go and check, which infuriates the superior, so May says no more. Soon after, the alarm turns into a continuous wail. The superior once again threatens May to keep quiet. After all, she has to maintain her public image as a virtuous wife and dutiful daughter-in-law. So her only option is to arrange for the elderly person to have an accidental death. After confirming the person has passed away, the superior asks May if she heard anything. May doesn't dare to go against her wishes and can only nod in agreement. The 24th story begins with a girl who doesn't like making friends in real life, preferring to do so online. Therefore, she makes up an excuse to turn down a friend's invitation to a social gathering. After turning on her computer, she receives a video call request from a man. Although the girl isn't very pleased with his appearance, she greets him politely. The man, however, remains silent and even turns off his camera, which annoys the girl. The next day, her friend complains to the girl as soon as she sees her, saying that the gathering last night was full of unattractive and stingy men who insisted on splitting the bill. Yet, on the phone, the friend had pretended to be very sweet to them, which the girl finds disgusting. That evening, the girl receives another video call request from the same man. He is still silent, so the girl begins to complain about her friend, even saying that she wishes her friend would die soon. Upon hearing this, the man immediately ends the video call. On the third day, the girl receives another video call from the man. This time, he speaks, but not much. Besides a basic greeting, he only mentions that he went to the university. He is neither a teacher nor a student, so the girl wonders why he would go there. Just then, the man suddenly says he has a gift for her. It turns out he has killed her friend. Just as the girl is about to call the police, the man interrupts her. He then opens his front door and rings the doorbell of the apartment opposite his. Suddenly, the girl's doorbell rings. It turns out the man lives right across the hall from her. The 25th story begins with a young woman who has poor health and always carries medicine with her. One day, she receives a letter containing a photograph of a charred corpse. She suspects it's a prank. The next day, she receives another letter with a photo showing someone smashing human bones with a hammer. On the third day, there's another photo, this time of someone grinding the bones into a fine powder. More photos arrive later, showing the bone powder being put into capsules, which are then placed in a bottle. At this moment, the woman suddenly realizes that the capsules she has been taking all this time are those very same ones. The 26th story begins with Nanaka receiving a call from a friend on her way home, who tells her that her personal information has been posted online. Nanaka immediately goes online to check and finds her details posted as her friend said. Below the information is a photoshopped picture and a bounty. Anyone who kills Nanaka before midnight on March 30th will receive a reward of 10 million yen. Upon seeing this, Nanaka chooses not to call the police but instead calls her boyfriend. However, her boyfriend doesn't answer. She then calls her friend again. Understanding Nanaka's situation, the friend decides to come over to keep her company. Nanaka waits for a long time before hearing the roar of a motorcycle outside. But when she looks, It's not her friend, but a strange man. A moment later, her friend suddenly calls and tells Nanaka to get out of the house immediately, as someone is climbing onto her balcony. Nanaka immediately runs out and happens to meet her friend who has come to pick her up. After getting in the car, Nanaka thinks she is safe, but then her friend gives her a chilling look. The scene shifts to Hikaru being a video game enthusiast. One day, while taking out the trash, he finds a notice that says, "Collecting 3 items will save a princess," complete with a route map below. Hikaru figures he has nothing better to do, so he might as well try. Following the clues, he finds a wallet with 30,000 inside. He then discovers the next part of the map. Following the map, Hikaru finds a ring, and then another clue leads him to a so-called treasure sword. The final step is to rescue the princess. Hikaru joyfully opens a plastic bag, only to find a dead body inside. Just then, a passerby walks by. With both a witness and evidence present, Hikaru is framed as the killer. The person who was murdered was Nanaka. The items Hikaru had found were the murder weapon and Nanaka's belongings, and the person who killed Nanaka was the friend who came to pick her up in the car. The 27th story begins with a playboy, having found a new lover, breaking up with his girlfriend. When she asks if he cheated, he denies it. The girlfriend doesn't press him, simply packing her things to leave. Before she goes, she gives the man a computer he has always wanted. Seeing that he can't refuse, the man accepts it. As soon as his girlfriend leaves, the man immediately calls his new lover to share the good news, but she doesn't answer. He leaves a message telling her that he has broken up with his girlfriend. Downstairs, the girlfriend waves goodbye to him, which makes the man feel uncomfortably as if his act has been exposed. He then calls his new lover again. This time, he hears a vibration coming from the cardboard box the computer came in. When he hangs up, the vibration stops. Only then does he notice blood stains where the box has been. Mustering his courage, he peeks inside the box and sees a human head. It turns out the new lover had already been dismembered by his girlfriend and packed into the cardboard box. The 28th story begins with a girl discovering a key inside a cabinet while getting something from it. This key opens another cabinet. After opening the second cabinet, she finds a check for 5 million. Besides the check, there is another key. She uses this key to open a third cabinet, which again contains a key to the next cabinet and an organ donor card. This next key opens a locker in the underground parking garage. The girl goes down to the parking garage. Just as she is about to open the locker, she thinks of all the disposable characters from the previous episodes. She turns to leave, grabbing the check and running. However, the locker opens anyway. A person jumps out and abducts her. It seems the girl has run into members of an organ trafficking ring. The 29th story begins with a subordinate's mistake causing her female boss to fly into a rage. After scolding her, the boss even suggests the subordinate get a new hairstyle because her current one is so ugly. The subordinate doesn't know what to say. That evening, the subordinate submits the completed documents to her boss, but the boss is still not satisfied. While working on the documents, the subordinate accidentally knocks over her boss's important files. Fortunately, the 2 stacks of paper do not get mixed up. The boss orders the subordinate to shred the revised documents. The subordinate doesn't notice that a very precious photograph belonging to her boss is mixed in with the papers to be shredded. She only discovers it as she is shredding them. At that exact moment, the boss asks about the photo, saying she can't find it, even though it was just on her desk. Not wanting to be blamed again, the subordinate resolutely presses the shred button. This time, she wants to cover up her mistake to avoid another scolding. Soon, the boss begins to suspect the subordinate, believing she shredded the photo. As her boss gets closer and closer, the subordinate takes a few deep breaths and then shoves her hand into the shredder. This panics the boss. The subordinate admits that the photo has been shredded, but seeing her current state, the boss doesn't dare to reprimand her further and immediately runs to call for an ambulance. The subordinate breathes a sigh of relief, finally free from being yelled at. The 30th story begins with a man getting into a taxi while on the phone. He gives his destination but forgets to close the door. He even scolds the driver for not understanding him and not starting the car. The driver has to remind him to fasten his seatbelt. After a while, the driver seems to see something and suddenly stops the car. He explains that today is his last day of work. He will be fired by the taxi company after today. After saying this, he suddenly slams on the gas and the car begins to speed wildly. Soon, he hits and kills a pedestrian. The passenger asks him why he is driving so recklessly. The driver replies that the woman he killed was his wife, who had been cheating on him. He then continues on to the destination as if nothing had happened. The 31st story begins with a boy who loves the person in the bear mascot costume and takes a photo with him as soon as he sees him. Soon after, 2 bratty kids arrive and start punching and kicking the bear. They know that because they are young, someone will always defend them no matter what they do. In their eyes, bullying a staff member is no big deal. After a while, when the boy wants to take another photo, the bear is gone. After waiting for a bit, the bear reappears. The boy immediately runs over and hugs the bear, but his mother suddenly notices that the side of her son's face pressed against the bear is covered in blood. It turns out the staff member in the bear costume had killed the bratty kids. The mother, fearing for her son's safety, rushes towards them. The 30-second story begins with a man seeing a forum post while surfing the internet. The poster claims to have killed someone and asks for advice on how to dispose of the body. The few people who reply think the poster is joking. The man, figuring he has nothing better to do, decides to play along. He suggests the poster first dismember the body. The next day, the man comes home and sees the poster's reply. The poster claims to have done as the man said and asks for the next step. The man tells him to mix the body parts with burnable trash and dispose of them bit by bit. On the third day, the man checks online with his phone and sees that the person has indeed followed his instructions. That night, the man looks at the post again. Everyone still thinks the poster is bluffing. In response, the poster says he has left proof and includes a map. The location of the proof is very close to the man's house, so the man rides his motorcycle to the marked location to see what this so-called evidence is. Upon opening a black bag, he finds only a video camera that is currently recording. Later, the man's ordeal was posted online. That night, while inspecting the bag, he was ambushed by a mysterious figure from behind and killed on the spot. The 33rd story begins with a girl who happens to notice that the toilet in her apartment is different from when she left in the morning. The toilet seat has been put up. She suspects someone has been in her home while she was out. She tells her best friend, who suggests she move, but the girl doesn't have the extra money. Her friend then suggests calling the police, but there's not enough evidence. So the friend can only go to the girl's place to keep her company. When the girl gets home, she notices that her friend hasn't used the new toothbrush she bought, but the bristles are wet. The next day, the girl installs a camera in her home, hoping to capture an image of the intruder to have evidence for the police. When she returns home that evening, the girl checks the footage. She has indeed captured the intruder. After checking the girl's computer, the intruder hears someone opening the door and hides in the closet. The person opening the door is the girl, which means the intruder is still in the closet. The screen then cuts away, and we see the girl at her computer, posting on a forum, asking how to dispose of a body after a murder. It turns out the girl had killed the intruder. She is the poster from the previous story. The 34th story begins with a girl seeing a suspicious man outside her shop. She greets him, but the man doesn't respond. After getting home, the girl realizes she forgot her keys and returns to the shop to get them. When she comes out, she sees the man again. The man is just staring blankly at the girl's shop, completely ignoring the girl's presence. He only looks towards the girl after he has walked away. The next day, the girl runs into the man again. To figure out why the man is there, the girl hides nearby to watch him. She sees the man attempting to pry open the door to her shop. Seeing this, the girl finds a steel pipe nearby, sneaks up on the man, and knocks him to the ground. She then strikes him several more times, killing him. It turns out the girl is a psychopathic killer who has already murdered several people. She had stored all their bodies in suitcases inside her shop. The man she killed was likely a friend or relative of one of the victims, who had found a clue and was trying to investigate, but ultimately died at the girl's hands. The 35th story begins with a delivery man encountering the mysterious woman from previous episodes during a delivery. Upon seeing the delivery man, the woman falls deeply in love with him and begins to appear wherever he goes. But the delivery man doesn't like her and deliberately keeps his distance. Later, the mysterious woman starts to harass him with phone calls. Unable to stand it, the delivery man hangs up on her. She then begins trying to win him over, even putting his clothes in the washing machine without permission. When he sees this, the delivery man shoves her heavy body away and calls her an ugly freak. After the insult, he gathers his clothes and leaves. While washing his hair, the delivery man suddenly discovers his head is covered in blood. After a careful check, he finds no injuries. It turns out the blood came from the shampoo bottle, which contained not only blood but also a severed finger. The finger, of course, belonged to the mysterious woman. One day, the woman calls the delivery man while he is driving, confesses her love, and then says it's all over. While the delivery man is still wondering what she means, the woman suddenly runs out in front of his car and is hit. Just as the delivery man regains his composure, he witnesses a shocking scene. The mysterious woman is not dead like a piece of shit. She even gets up and walks towards his car, telling him that he has to take responsibility for her. The 36th story begins with a greasy man, bored on the bus, starting reading the text messages of a young woman sitting in front of him. At first, the messages are a bit suggestive, which is to his liking. But after a little while, the topic of the conversation shifts to disposing of a body. The other person tells the woman that the body has already been sealed in concrete. Upon reading this, the man quickly checks the news on his phone and finds a report about a missing person. As he tries to continue reading, the woman notices him. She complains about him in a text message to her accomplice. The accomplice sees the message and asks if they should take care of the man. It turns out the accomplice is also on the bus. The accomplice changes seats and sits down next to the man, who is now in grave danger. The 37th story begins with a strange man ringing a young woman's doorbell. He says he lives next door and made too much stew, so he wants to give her some. The woman is a bit wary. After all, she just moved in and isn't familiar with the area yet, so she refuses. The next day, at dinner time, the man comes by again with food. The woman pretends not to be home and tricks him into leaving. On the third day, the man comes again with food. The woman hasn't eaten yet, so she asks him some questions through the door. It turns out the man is a chef at a Western restaurant and has been developing new recipes, which is why he has leftovers every day. All the residents in the building have tried his cooking. Hearing this, the woman finally lets her guard down. The man tells her to return the pot the next day and hopes she can offer some suggestions for improvement. The dish is very much to the woman's taste, and she enjoys it immensely. The next morning, the woman runs into her neighbor from next door and compliments her boyfriend's cooking. The neighbor has no idea what she's talking about and states that she lives alone. Realizing she's been tricked, the woman rushes home to examine the leftover food. Inside, she discovers a juicy tongue used for body massage. It turns out the man is a killer, and his dishes are made of human flesh. The 38th story begins when a girl comes home and finds a slip of paper in her pocket with the number 30 written on it. The next day, another slip appears with 29. On the third day, the girl makes sure her pockets are empty before she leaves, but after getting off the bus, she finds a slip with 28 in her pocket anyway. After more than 10 days of this, the girl tells her best friend, who suggests she put a note in her own pocket to warn the person. The girl does as her friend says, but the numbered slip still appears in her pocket as usual. The person not only ignores her warning, but even includes an insult. In response, the girl writes back a curse. The next note she receives jumps directly from 10 to 2. When the girl gets home, she sees the number 1 on her floor. The person has snuck into her house. After the girl tells her friend tells her to move in with her. While going home to pack her clothes, the girl hesitates to open her mailbox. Seeing this, her friend tells her to relax and volunteers to open it herself. Opening the mailbox triggers a hidden device inside, and her friend is killed by a crossbow bolt. Although the girl takes her friend to the hospital, she ultimately dies from her injuries. When no one is looking, the girl breaks into a smile, relieved that she had a friend to take the fall for her. The 39th story begins with a girl waking up, only to find several handprints on her window, apparently left by someone pressing their hands against the glass for a long time. The girl works as an appliance customer service representative, handling after-sales issues. One day, she receives a complaint from a customer who starts shouting as soon as the call connects, complaining about the product's quality and demanding that the girl admit she's an idiot. To calm the customer down, the girl says that she is an idiot, which finally placates the customer. After work, her elderly female neighbor greets her with a cheerful smile as usual. Although the girl feels uneasy, she still greets the woman back. The girl has another identity. She is her manager's mistress, a secret no one at the company knows. One day, the same customer calls to complain again, and the girl is subjected to another tirade. The girl notices the customer's name and feels it's familiar. It turns out that her cheerful and kind elderly neighbor is the abusive customer on the phone. This comes as a complete shock to the girl. The girl and her manager have been secretly dating. Whenever she asks to become his official wife, the manager tells her to wait a little longer, saying he can't divorce his wife just yet. One day, the neighbor calls again to curse at her. The girl directly asks if she is deliberately finding fault just to yell at her. After a moment of silence, the neighbor finally reveals the truth. It's because the girl's moans during sex are too loud and have been disturbing her sleep. The neighbor has been spying on the girl and the manager through the window, which is how the handprints got there. That evening, the girl runs into the neighbor in the elevator. Seeing that they are alone, the neighbor finally reveals her menacing true nature. Recently, the manager has been coming home late often. His wife warns him not to have an affair or she will chop him up. The manager quickly promises he won't. After he leaves, his wife receives a mysterious phone call. The caller reveals detailed information about her and the manager, even knowing what they are doing at that moment and their schedule for the next 2 days. The caller also says the manager will die on Monday and suggests the wife buy an insurance policy in advance. The wife is skeptical at first, but after the caller provides so much accurate information, she is finally persuaded to buy the insurance. It turns out this mysterious call was made by the girl. On Monday, the manager receives a text from the girl saying something important has come up and telling him to come over immediately. The manager rushes to the girl's apartment and finds the neighbor's dead body in her bathroom. It turns out the girl had killed the neighbor. Because the manager refused to give the girl the status she wanted, he has to die too. After doing all this, the girl ends her tragic life in tears. In the end, the manager's wife receives the death benefit from his insurance policy. The 40th story begins with a woman realizing she took the wrong umbrella when she left the convenience store. Since it's late, she decides to return it the next day. The following day, the woman goes to the convenience store to exchange the umbrella. Although she's a little unsure, it's the only one of its kind there, so it must be the right one. A little later, a sun shower begins, so the woman opens the umbrella. The moment she does, the tip of the umbrella shoots out like a bullet, lodging itself in the head of a passerby across the street and killing her. What on earth just happened? It turns out this was a murder plot devised by the store owner, who intended for someone else to carry it out. The woman accidentally took the murder weapon the owner had prepared, and she was the one who should take the blame. The 41st story begins with a couple arriving at a hotel to get a room. Just as they reach the door, the man can't help but start getting intimate with his girlfriend. At that moment, a strange bellboy appears, forcing them to stop their hormone yoga session temporarily. After entering the room, they discover the hotel offers a cosplay service. They request a nurse outfit, but since it's out of stock, they settle for a school uniform instead. Shortly after, the bellboy delivers the school uniform. A moment later, the bellboy calls to ask if the size is appropriate. The man replies that it's fine. But soon after, the bellboy calls again, reconfirming if the size is right. A minute later, the phone rings once more. This time, the bellboy reminds them to use contraception and lets out a strange laugh over the phone. The man, unable to stand it any longer, goes downstairs and knocks on the bellboy's door. His girlfriend waits upstairs for a long time, but the man doesn't return. Much later, the bellboy knocks on the girlfriend's door. Sensing something is wrong, she quickly locks it to protect her sexy body. She tries to call the man, but realizes he didn't take his phone with him. The bellboy then uses a master key to enter the room. The scene cuts away. Although the man isn't dead, he is left half dead. The 42nd story begins with a young man waiting for his clothes at a laundromat when he receives a phone call. The caller ID shows it's coming from a public phone booth. The young man doesn't answer and hangs up. But a moment later, the phone rings again. He answers, and the person on the other end tells him to turn off the washing machine quickly. The young man dismisses it. However, the same call comes in again. He suspects it might be a prank and steps outside the laundromat to look at the nearby phone booth. There, he sees a mysterious woman. When she spots the young man, she gives him a gentle smile. It was her making all the calls. To get away from her, the young man immediately takes his clothes out of the machine. When he comes out, he sees that the mysterious woman has left, but her wallet is still in the phone booth. After taking her money, the young man suddenly hears a strange laugh from above. He looks up to see the mysterious woman peering through a skylight, pouring a bottle of sulfuric acid down on him, instantly disfiguring his face. Finally, the mysterious woman puts the young man's body into a washing machine. This explained why so many of the machines were out of order. The 43rd story begins with Shiroi receiving a text from her shady classmate and meets her on the rooftop. The shady classmate tells Shiroi that she thinks Saki is a terrible person who always pretends to be gentle in front of boys and asks for Shiroi's opinion. Shiroi agrees, saying she finds it super annoying. After their chat, Shiroi realizes that Saki was hiding nearby and listening the whole time. She understands she's been set up and that the two girls were testing her together. It's common for groups of girls to talk badly about another girl who isn't present, but saying it to someone's face is incredibly awkward. Shiroi had previously stolen Saki's boyfriend, so as they talk, their conversation escalates into a physical fight. In the end, Saki pushes Shiroi off the building. Since the shady classmate was a witness, Saki plans to kill her too. The scene then cuts. The boyfriend comes to the hospital to visit the shady classmate. It turns out that the shady classmate had managed to kill Saki instead. With both of his girlfriends now dead, the boyfriend starts looking for his next target, which is naturally the shady classmate. After the boyfriend leaves, the shady classmate suddenly bursts into laughter. In reality, she was the mastermind behind the entire plot. Now, the boyfriend belongs only to her. The 44th story begins with Mickey being the top escort at a high-end club, receiving countless invitations every day. Because of this, she has a rather arrogant personality. When she discovers her driver has been switched from a young man to an older man, she lashes out at him, and the older man can only take the abuse in silence. Mickey doesn't let up in the car, continuing to insult him in various ways. When her colleague gets home, she thanks the driver. Now, only the driver and Mickey are left in the car. Exhausted from her tirade, Mickey takes a short nap. When she wakes up, she finds the driver has parked directly in front of her apartment building. She had only given him a general location, so she wonders how he could know her exact address. The driver doesn't explain and simply says goodbye. After going upstairs, Mickey hears a car horn honking from outside. It's the driver, honking from below. Mickey immediately goes back down, intending to scold him, only to find the driver is not in the car. Frustrated, Mickey goes back home. What she doesn't know is that during the short time she was outside, the driver had slipped into her home. Finally, the driver appears before Mickey, holding a power drill. After Mickey's death, her colleague takes her place as the top escort. It turns out the colleague had arranged everything. The 45th story begins with a handsome boy brushing past a woman after entering a restaurant and instantly falling in love with her. After sitting down, he realizes she forgot her phone and prepares to return it, but she has vanished without a trace. He asks the owner and learns that the woman is single and was just there yesterday, celebrating her birthday alone. Back home, the boy sees that the woman's phone has received a message. On a whim, he enters her birthday and successfully unlocks it. A man named Kuru has sent her several messages. Because the boy read them, the unread status changed to read. Kuru, thinking the woman has read his messages and is deliberately not replying, starts sending questioning texts. The boy suspects Kuru might be her boyfriend, so he feels it's not his place to respond. Late at night, Kuru begins harassing him with messages again. The numerous texts wake the boy up, and their content has now turned to verbal abuse. When he gets no response, Kuru says he's going to kill the woman and that he is at her front door. The boy thinks he's joking and puts the phone in the refrigerator. When the boy wakes up in the morning, he takes out the phone. He then hears a commotion outside. It turns out a murder has occurred upstairs. The deceased is the owner of the phone. After committing the murder, Kuru quickly notices the boy's presence. Their eyes meet, and the story ends. The 46th story begins with Yamako finding a letter in her own mailbox addressed to someone else. The recipient's name is Rinko. Curious about the contents, Yamako takes the letter that isn't hers back into her home. It turns out to be just a love letter. Over the next few days, Yamako continues to receive love letters addressed to Rinko. Yamako feels the name sounds familiar, so she looks up Rinko online. She discovers that Rinko was murdered a year ago and that the police still haven't caught the killer. It turns out that the apartment Yamako is now living in used to be Rinko's home. Soon after, there is a heavy knock at the door. Yamako suspects it might be the killer and decides to call the police, but just then, the knocking stops abruptly. The person outside slips a letter through the mail slot in the door. The recipient on this letter is no longer Rinko, it's Yamako. The sender writes that they no longer love Rinko, and that the person they love now is Yamako. After Yamako calls the police, they assure her they will patrol in shifts to ensure her safety. Back home, Yamako receives another letter, which contains a severed finger. As Yamako opens the door, her hand is cut by a razor blade attached to it. At that moment, the letter writer appears. Yamako manages to get back inside and bolt the door. The next morning, the police arrive to ask about the situation. They tell Yamako they found no suspicious individuals and advise her to be careful. That night, the stalker begins to pry open Yamako's door. When Yamako checks outside, she is nearly stabbed in the eye. Eventually, the stalker manages to pry the door open. It is then revealed that Yamako is the owner of the cell phone from the previous story, and the person sending the letters and the text messages is Kuru. After Yamako's death, another girl moves into the apartment. Kuru continues to send letters to this address, addressed to Yamako. Before long, the girl will receive the letter, and the cycle will start all over again. The 47th story begins with an innocent virgin man buying something at a convenience store. While paying, he is sexually harassed by the ugly cashier. After seeing the cashier's appearance, the man mutters that she's disgusting. This causes the cashier to target him. While the man is eating, he hears a tapping sound from his balcony. It turns out to be some bored person playing a prank, throwing pebbles onto his balcony. The next day, when the man passes the convenience store, he grumbles at the cashier again. As a result, when he gets home, he once again hears the sound of pebbles landing on his balcony. The man looks outside but doesn't see who is throwing them. Soon after, a few more pebbles are thrown onto the balcony. Although the man rushes out as fast as he can, he still can't see the person responsible. Just then, a shopping receipt falls from above. It turns out the cashier, the one throwing the pebbles, is on the roof. She very slowly lifts a large rock and throws it towards the man's position. Unfortunately, the virgin man is slow to react and is ultimately crushed to death by the cashier. After killing him, the cashier bursts into loud laughter with her ugly face. The 48th story begins with a girl who has recently been studying hypnotism. Her first test subject is her mother. She wants to hypnotize her mother into believing she is a cat. Her mother smiles and plays along, pretending to be a cat. Unwilling to accept her failure, the girl then decides to experiment on her older sister, hypnotizing her to believe she is a bird, but her sister can't be bothered to cooperate with her at all. Afterwards, the sister goes to the balcony to call a friend. When it's time for dinner, their mother doesn't bring out any food. The girl goes to the kitchen to check and finds her mother eating raw fish. It seems the hypnotism has taken effect. At that moment, the girl suddenly thinks of her sister and rushes to the balcony, but her sister is already gone. It turns out that after being hypnotized, her sister believed she was a bird and flew off the balcony, falling to her death below. The 49th story begins with a girl seeing the same person taking photos in a photo booth at the same location for 2 consecutive days. On the morning of the 3rd day, she passes by and sees the person there again. The girl tells her friend about this. Seeing how much it's bothering her, her friend suggests she take a different route. However, that evening, the girl habitually walks down the same path and encounters the person once more. Just as the girl is about to leave, she hears the "photo session complete" notification sound. Mustering her courage, the girl takes out the printed photos. The photos are pitch black, which scares her so much that she immediately throws them away. Suddenly, the curtain of the photo booth opens, and then the screen goes black. All that is heard is the girl's chicken scream. Later, a man walks by and sees that the person inside the photo booth has now been replaced by the girl. It appears she too must find a replacement to free herself. The 50th story begins with a girl returning home to find that the dish her mother cooked contains tomatoes. Her younger brother dislikes tomatoes intensely and has thrown tantrums about it before. During dinner, the girl notices that the light in her brother's room is off. Upon asking, she learns that their parents haven't brought her brother any food, nor have they spoken to him. This deeply saddens the girl. Believing her parents are being heartless, she gets into an argument with them. While in the bathroom, her father hears the girl's laughter coming from her brother's room. Feeling uneasy, he goes up to take a look. It is revealed that the brother has been dead for a long time. The girl, unable to cope with this trauma, has been living under the delusion that her brother is still alive. The figure in the room is a dummy, serving as the brother's substitute. The 51st story begins with a delivery man discovering that the recipient is not home, so he decides to deliver to other addresses first. Just as he gets back in his truck, the recipient calls to say that he is at home. The delivery man arranges to come back in the evening. When the delivery man arrives again, the recipient is once again not at home. The delivery man notices that the electric meter is still running, but there's nothing he can do if the recipient won't open the door. After getting back in his truck, the recipient calls again, insisting that he is home, the door is unlocked, and emphasizing that now is the only time he can accept the delivery. So the delivery man makes another trip. As soon as he enters the house, he smells a foul odor. Hearing a noise from an inner room, the delivery man opens the door. Inside is a young girl who has been imprisoned. At that moment, the front door is suddenly opened. The captor who imprisoned the girl has returned. The delivery man also falls victim to the criminal's brutal attack. When the delivery man wakes up, he finds himself stuffed inside a sleeping bag by the captor. After a great struggle, he manages to break free. Just as he collects himself, a passing truck heads straight for him. The outcome is easy to imagine. The 52nd story begins with a girl noticing a small, dirty patch on her neck while showering. She thinks it's a minor issue and doesn't pay it much mind. The next day, while sending a text message, she discovers that her phone's predictive text is suggesting strange content. This kind of content would only be suggested if it had been typed in before, leading her to suspect someone has tampered with her phone. The girl tells her good friend Nana about this. Nana speculates that the girl might be the target of a jealous person, as her popularity has increased significantly recently. It's revealed that the girl is a minor celebrity. A day later, the girl finds another dirty patch on her neck. When she opens her phone, she sees that it is filled with many new photos, causing her storage to be full. The photos are all of used tissues. The girl immediately throws her phone away. Nana notices that something is off with the girl today and calls her after work to ask what happened. The girl asks Nana to come over and keep her company. After Nana arrives, she finds a DVD given to the girl by a fan and plays it out of curiosity. The content of the first disc is normal, consisting of fans' well wishes for the girl. After watching it, Nana plays the second disc. The content of this disc is very strange. It shows a creepy man in a pitch-black room singing a song for the girl. After he finishes singing, the creepy man reveals someone behind him. The person sleeping soundly behind him is none other than the girl. The girl is stunned. The creepy man, while the girl was asleep, had smeared something dirty on her neck, so that's where the dirty patches came from. After learning the truth, the girl is on the verge of a breakdown. The very next morning, she moves into Nana's house. After the girl enters the house, however, Nana reveals a sinister smile. It turns out she was the one who led the creepy man to the girl. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.